Interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's World Goth Day, Tony. Did you ever have a goth phase?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Briefly, do not get your septum pierced. Do not.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay away from all piercings, goth or otherwise. No piercing. Yeah, my son just got both ears pierced. Both ears.
Really?
Yeah.
And you allowed that?
His grandfather's rolling over in his grave.
You allowed that?
I did.
You didn't say wait.
It was
No,
either
you didn't
that
say
or
wait.
ink.
Get out of the house.
It's the ink I have a problem with.
Oh,
I let the
no.
ear piercings go. I let it go.
Get him out of the house.
Yeah, no.
No,
I'm
can't
soft,
have that.
so
Welcome
soft.
to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Stars overtake the Oilers, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins MVP, and the Tigers have the best record in baseball. But we begin today with the Indiana Pacers making up 14 points in the last 2 minutes and 51 seconds, and 8 points in the last 35 seconds, and forcing overtime where they beat the Knicks 138-135. In those frantic last few minutes, Aaron Nesmith hit 4 3-pointers and Tyrese Halliburton hit what looked like a 3-pointer to win, but was ruled a 2 to tie. Indiana outscored New York 33-16 from the 2:51 mark and through the overtime. Wilbon, how do you make sense of what happened in Madison Square Garden last night?
I can't. There's no making sense of it. You can be in awe of it. You can scream out loud. I'm surprised my voice is back between screaming over the Northwestern women winning the NCAA golf championship against Stanford and then this game back-to-back. Surprised I have a voice. I can't make sense of it, Tony. You were at the closest thing to this. You were at the Reggie Miller game. And I know you love being there. You can't make sense of it 30 years later. Some things you just enjoy. You just sit there and you marvel at it. And I can pick apart the Knicks. I don't think I want to say the Knicks choked. I mean, they kind of did, but I don't think that's my main takeaway. It's that the Pacers have done this now. They did this against Milwaukee. They did this to a degree against Cleveland. Halliburton does this right down to the choke sign, which I loved, which was, of course, derivative, and Reggie Miller's there. Tony, it was such great theater. How can this go up? How can it get any better? And it was so cool to have this game play out in the Garden last night, but make sense of it? Maybe you can, because I can't.
No, what happened last night was actually impossible. Things went on that were not possible, and we'll start with Nesmith. Nesmith hit 6 threes, went 6 for 6 in the fourth quarter, 6 threes. Now, he's a good three-point shooter.
Yeah.
His percentage is 43.1%. This was 100%. Halliburton's shot was impossible. When you hit the back rim, it does not go straight up in the air and fall cleanly to the net. Because if it worked like that, Butler would have been the national champions. Now, you can say that the Knicks played no defense at the end, and maybe they played no defense at the end, Mike, but you and I have watched enough basketball games to know that all these shots don't go in. There's not a game where they all go in quite like this. So I'm going to refer to my notes. I don't know what this means for the series. I prefer to think of it right now without any other context, without game 2, 3, 4, winning. Yeah, sort of as an outlier. But as you said, the Pacers have been doing this through the playoffs, where they are now, I was wrong the other day, but they are now 5-1 on the road. They came from 8 back, closed 8-0 to beat Milwaukee. They closed 8-0 to beat in the second round. Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland. And now they do this. You know, I mentioned this to you on the phone today. Knicks got 78 points from Brunson and Towns.
Yeah.
78. And they lost. Nobody has ever gotten 78 and lost. And how often are you going to get 78? So this is what I would worry about if I was the Knicks, that I just had the best game I was going to have and did not win it because of this combination of impossible things.
And Tony, to just put a punctuation here, the Pacers didn't play much defense at all the first 3 quarters and 8 minutes. They finally got it. Even they couldn't get consistent stops late. So the Pacers have, I mean, it's not like Rick Carlisle doesn't have anything to work with on the film study today, because he does. So the Pacers can walk in here and say, wait a minute, we sort of got away with an A++++ ending on C work. Maybe they don't have C work tomorrow. And I can't wait for game 2 in this thing. Look, it started off irresistible, and it's gone up. I don't know if it's sustainable, but my goodness. The Stanley Cup playoffs provided a compelling comeback as well. Dallas Stars were down to the Oilers 3-1 entering the third. The Stars then scored 5 times in the final period, including 3 power play goals the first 6 minutes, en route to a 6-3 win in game 1. Tony, do you frame this as a Stars comeback or an Edmonton collapse?
Okay, so as you're fond of saying, both things can be true. There's no doubt in my mind that Edmonton is the agent of its own destruction here because it gave up penalty after penalty after penalty. You're up 3-1. What are you doing? Okay, the first penalty carries over from the second period into the early third period. Dallas scores. The second penalty is 2 minutes later. Dallas scores. The third penalty is less than 2 minutes later, and Dallas scores. I mean, did you learn nothing here?
Apparently
so
not.
You go, if you're Edmonton, from 3-1 up to 4-3 down in less than 5 minutes. Now, I don't want to say this is a collapse because these are power play goals. That's a different thing. Other sports don't have this. This is a 5-on-4. You know, it's a different thing. But Edmonton is responsible for what happened in this particular case. Meanwhile, Dallas scores 5 goals in the third. Who gets 5 goals in the third in the playoffs other than Florida? Maybe they do. Edmonton had gone, Mike, 13 playoff games in a row, winning them where they led going into the third. So, I mean, this doesn't happen.
Late team
yeah, it doesn't really happen. Look, it feels like an echo from the Knicks and the Pacers. And you have to ask the same question, and the question is this. Is this a shattering loss? Is this a series dispiriting loss? The difference in hockey is if they don't make those penalties, they win the game. So their film study today is play clean. Just play clean.
I'm putting this entirely in Edmonton's lap. It is downright stupid and irresponsible to have 3 penalties, 2 of them for high sticks, in that short a time frame. You knew at the end of the second period you'd given them that advantage going into the third. You give up the goal there. What are you doing? That's just unbelievably, almost arrogant. And the Oilers have not played that way. They're still seeking a championship with the best player in the world.
With these guys.
And then maybe the best teammates in the world. No, they haven't. So what are you doing? No, you're not going to give up 5 goals in the third unless 3 of them, 1 empty net and 3 power plays. Come on now. I'm putting this on the Oilers. Yeah. They got some redeeming to do.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's go back to basketball and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander officially winning the MVP award. Gilgeous-Alexander got 71 first-place votes out of 100. Nikola Jokic got the other 29. This is the 7th straight season a foreign-born player has won MVP. There is some backlash, though. Some people are saying Gilgeous-Alexander goes out of his way to draw fouls and that he flops a lot. This was evidenced in Game 1 when Gilgeous-Alexander took 14 free throws. Wilbon, you voted for him.
Yes.
Should we deride or respect his penchant for drawing fouls?
You should pay no attention to it. It's fine. It's part and parcel. He's not floating around 28 feet from the basket. That's not his game. He's actually paying attention to the mid-range, and he's honoring a part of the game that most people have bailed on because they don't want to have any contact. I'm not talking about, obviously, the Steph Currys of the world and the Dame Lillards and the truly great three-point shooters. Everybody wants to shoot threes, even if they're 6'8", 240 pounds. No, Shai is taking his butt into the paint and playing in it with the trees. And if he gets an elbow or a hip and he goes down and it's an and one, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anybody detracting from this kid because he's a great player. He led his team to the best record. He lapped the field, which is why I voted for him and not the Joker, who was historically great again. I don't want to hear this nonsense.
Yeah, I would love to disagree. I don't think I can disagree with this. There are certain players who do annoying things. For example, for years, James Harden did this all the time. He would stop outside the three-point line. He would fake and fake and fake till you went into the air. And then he would put up a ridiculous shot and draw the contact and go for 3. I always felt that was not an ethical way to play basketball, but I love James Harden. and that was the way he got 30 points a game, right? That's what he did. My feeling about basketball is that it pays off if you score the most amount of points. So if you can go to the line and score points, you ought to do it. If you get referees to be complicit with you, then I honestly think, Mike, that you ought to do it. And as you say, Gilgeous-Alexander, he's not staying out at 23 feet and shooting threes. I believe he took 15 shots in the paint on game one. How many did your boy Ant-Man take in the paint? Took none, I believe, in the paint.
Yeah.
So I think that should be rewarded. I'll make one other small point, and it's about Jalen Brunson, who deliberately initiates contact with every dribble he makes when he is closely guarded. And if that bumping gets him to the line, that strikes me as strategic. As he has done his job.
Yes.
Referees tend to call more defensive fouls than offensive fouls. And if you can get them to be on your side, and Gilgeous-Alexander has done it, I, like you, I'm not going to yell and scream like you, but I think, he's playing basketball. And as you say, they had more wins than anybody else. Let's take a break.
Agree. And game 2 is tonight, by the way.
Coming up. Yeah. Thanks for that promo. I'm sure the network loves it. The Tigers have baseball's best record through 50 games. What's the word for that?
And how best to describe Novak Djokovic's chances of winning the French Open. Surprised he's even playing the French Open.
Mikko Rantanen scored no goals last night, and the team got 6. Right?
They
had guys scoring who hadn't scored the whole series.
You're playing 5-on-4. You ought to be able to score some goals. Seriously.
Time for a little commentator nomenclator. What's first?
It's blank that the Tigers have baseball's best record through 50 games.
My word is unexpected. The Tigers are 33-17. I believe the Phillies and the Dodgers each have 31 wins. I believe your Cubs and the Mets each have 30 wins. And the Tigers were a playoff team last year, but they were a playoff team because they got hot very late. They were selling off assets at the trade deadline when they were 52-17. And after that, they went 34-19. Even with that, Mike, nobody would have predicted they'd have the best record in baseball after 50 games, because one of the reasons is, other than Tarek Skubal, you can't name anybody on the Tigers, and they play in the toughest division in the American League, where Kansas City and Cleveland and Minnesota are also over 500. I believe that they start a series today, the Tigers, with Cleveland, which knocked them out of the playoffs last year. Here's the one thing I'm sure of. A.J. Hinch can manage. He can.
I'm sure. I don't need to go back to last year. I just got to go to this year. First of all, it's contextual. The context is the Tigers have had the 17th most difficult schedule so far this year. Tigers haven't played anybody. Good, they're going to play Cleveland. Good, they'll get into division play, and their record will come back. The Cubbies, who you mentioned already, even despite playing the last 9 games against the White Sox and Marlins, have the 3rd most difficult schedule so far in the major leagues. So, no, it's just context. The Tigers haven't done anything yet. Some of those other teams have played more difficult schedules. Until the White Sox and Marlins cluttered the Cubs schedule, thank God they did. We went 7-2. We had the most difficult schedule. Context is everything.
What's next?
Novak Djokovic's chances of winning the French Open are blank.
Comme ci, comme ça. You see what I did there? I did that in French. I did that in French for everybody. Novak Djokovic, I believe, is 38 years old today. Only one man in history has won a major at the age 37 or older, and that was Roy Emerson, right? A long time ago.
Rosewall.
Or Ken Rosewall.
No, Ken Rosewall.
Ken Rosewall.
Yeah.
A peer of Laver and Emerson, a peer. So, yes, Ken Rosewall. His record this year, Djokovic's record, I believe, is 13-7. He hasn't actually won anything. And he just split up with Andy Murray, who was his coach for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a tendency for me to write him off, but I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the last time he played in the French Open without leaving because of injury problems, he won it. And that was 2 years ago. And the last time he played on the red clay in Roland Garros was last summer in Paris in the Olympics, and he won it, and I believe he beat Alcaraz. And so, yes, I'm giving him a chance.
Well, even though he won today to improve to 14-7, I'm giving him zero chance. That's my word, zero. And you know, the last couple of years, I would say to you, Tony, Djokovic is going to make himself the GOAT because he's going to get out there and he's going to have a couple more and he's going to, you know, separate himself enough from Nadal and Federer. He's going to be the GOAT. Okay, but it's over for the French. It's done. He can't win. He fired Andy Murray, as you mentioned, because he got so frustrated and lost like first round like 3 times in a row. Zero chance, Tone. He's not going to win there. I'm not saying he won't win another one, but he ain't going to win the French. And if he has to play Alcaraz, he's going down.
Can you say zero in French in the way that I said comme
I wanted to say zero, but that's not it, so I don't know.
No, that would be
Spanish.
Zero would sound more Spanish than French.
Yeah,
that's the final word. Let's take one last break. Still to come. Will the Hurricanes even up their series with the Panthers tonight? Not if Panthers score like they've been scoring.
And is it a big blow that Christian Pulisic won't join the U.S. squad for the Gold Cup? Tony, did you watch the Northwestern women make the putt? Deanna Lee to win, to beat Stanford?
Would I have seen that on ESPN 14?
No,
where would I have seen that?
On the Golf Channel, which I know you watch.
Tonight on
Happy time, people. Happy 23rd birthday, Anthony Richardson. The 6'4", 245-pound quarterback was drafted number 4 overall by the Indianapolis Colts in 2023 out of Florida, where he had started there for just 1 season. He started for the Colts as a rookie, but got hurt after 4 games and a 2-2 record. Richardson has a huge arm and great athletic ability, but last season he was benched in favor of Joe Flacco after a terrible 47.3 completion percentage and 8 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. This year, Richardson will have to compete with Daniel Jones and draftee Riley Leonard from in-state Notre Dame. So Richardson's future in Indianapolis is anything but assured.
And Tony, if that's the case, I would blame it on the team. Why rush him into that? The talk when he was drafted was of not enough college reps and experience to go right into a starting lineup and be successful. Then why do it? Blame the team.
Happy anniversary, Kentucky Colonels. On this day 50 years ago, the Colonels beat the Indiana Pacers 110-105 in Freedom Hall to win the next-to-last ABA championship in 5 games. The New York Nets won the following year, and after that, the leagues merged. And New York, San Antonio, Indiana, and Denver joined the NBA. Kentucky was left out. In this game, Artis Gilmore led the Colonels with 28 points and 31 rebounds. Gilmore is one of 4 Hall of Famers from that team, along with Dan Issel, Louis Dampier, and Kentucky's coach, U.B. Brown. Indiana was coached by Hall of Famer Slick Leonard and featured league MVP George McGinnis, veteran Roger Brown, Billy Knight, who had 40 in this game, and our friend Len Elmore.
Gilmore and Issel. And because Kentucky was aced out, Gilmore went into some kind of draft, and he wound up with the Bulls. And so we were thrilled for a while that we got the great Artis Gilmore. He and Issel. That's a front line right there. Take that today.
A melancholy trails Jim Irsay. The Colts owner passed away yesterday at the age of 65. Irsay took over the team in 1997 after the passing of his father, Bob, who had notoriously moved the team to Indianapolis from Baltimore. The Colts made 2 Super Bowls under Jim Irsay, winning one in 2007 when Peyton Manning and company beat Wilbon's Bears. Irsay was open about his decades-long struggles with addiction. He loved rock music. He had a fabulous guitar collection. The team is expected to be transferred to his daughters.
Tony, he might have had a team with more appearances in Super Bowls if Andrew Luck had been able to stay healthy and sort of reach the great, great, great potential. We saw a little bit of it, not nearly enough, but that might have sort of changed the way we look back at things.
This has nothing to do with Jim Irsay, but when Bob Irsay moved that team in the middle of the night with the Mayflower Bands, that was one of the biggest stories ever in sports. It really was. One omission, Brendan Shanahan will not return as president of the Maple Leafs. Are you surprised?
Not really. 11 years, no conference final. You know the pressure? Not really.
Really?
No.
Pretty big name, Brendan Shanahan.
It is.
Pretty big name.
Very successful.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Nuggets have officially hired David Adelman as their permanent head coach. Is that a good decision?
No, I think it's a great decision with the way that team rallied around each other, the players in the locker room. and him. And Adelman, Rick's son, good for him, good for them. Christian Pulisic will not join the U.S. Gold Cup team because he needs recovery time. Your thoughts?
If somebody's injured, they're injured. He played all year in Europe, right? I mean, didn't they call him Wonder Boy at one point? So it can't help us, got to hurt us. The Blackhawks hired Jeff Glasshill as their new head coach. Is that okay with you?
I mean, he's got the requisite experience, having been with the Lightning and the Red Wings. We need players, and lots of them, sooner the better. The college football playoff will move to a straight seeding method this fall. The top 4 get byes. You okay with that?
That's the way it should be. It didn't work last year.
Yeah.
They tried to fool around with it from conferences and all of that. No, the top 4 teams
That's the way it should
get
be.
the byes. That's it. Last one, Panthers-Hurricanes, game 2 tonight. Who you got?
Hurricane going to stand up to the Panthers? Are they going to stand up to them and put together an effort? You would think they would have to do it down 1-0 and playing game 2 at home. So I guess that's my way of saying I'm going to take Carolina to even the series tonight.
We are out of time. We will try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. Emily Fletcher,
Mike, did Northwestern
Deanna
play
Lee,
golf?
the Northwestern women's golf team.
I've heard
National
that.
champions, baby. Cheers.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
With much more in tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon, what's your biggest takeaway from the Pacers' comeback?
Ooh, Tony, I guess there's one takeaway, and that is the Pacers can beat the Knicks. They can. Even yesterday, we made predictions. I said, okay, I'll go with the Knicks in 7 games. And I immediately said, I don't know if I actually believe what I'm saying, because you got to see the Pacers, and you got to ultimately believe in it at some point. Believe in what they do, how they do it, the pace they push it, the way they play even half-court basketball. After a made basket on the other end, they are flying down the court. It's exhilarating to watch. And Rick Carlisle knows how to use people. Most folks don't know him. Besides Halliburton, Nesmith, Nembhard, Turner, Mathurin, Siakam, Toppin, and T.J. McConnell. He'll use them all. He will use them all. And if the Knicks think they're just going to play 7 guys and play all of a sudden the same way that the Pacers do, because the Pacers are playing, no. The Pacers have done this all year and last year, too. It's what they do. They can win this. I think the Knicks will win tomorrow night. I think they'll win game 2 in the Garden, but we're in 4 series.
Okay, so I have a very small takeaway. It is this. It is the sign that Halliburton gave after the shot that he thought, obviously, was the winning shot.
Yeah.
Okay. That is an homage, obviously, to Reggie Miller and Spike Lee. I felt it was very creative. On the other hand, I wondered if he would live to regret that, because he is persona non grata in Madison Square Garden for game 2. He is going to hear it from the rafters. He's going to hear it. So you want to see how strong he is as a result of that. But that gesture, for me, that was the take.
I'm going to give you a little historical footnote. The great Reggie Miller, and I mean great, once took a bow in either the United Center or Old Chicago Stadium. He did that because he thought he'd won a game in Chicago. Scottie Pippen came back and said, not so fast, Reggie, and the Bulls won. So I don't know. Reggie's going to kill me tomorrow night for bringing this up. But the Pacers are so much fun to watch. Are they not? You're a Knicks guy. You love them. You should. But aren't the Pacers a thrill to watch?
They use the word Pacers literally. They know what they're doing. Yes.
They know.
Yeah, they do.
Reggie, I apologize. I really do. That's it. We're done. Back to you.